Mobile Industry Review, Mobile Developer TV.
The trick for entrepreneurs and for investors is to never be stuck in sort of the present. You have to think, okay, what are you going to do with the present? And the way I look at that is I tend to look for problems. I tend to look for what are the major needs that are emerging in the present that are going to need to be solved. And to me, the one thing that's clearly going to need to be solved is discovery. So it reminds me very much like how the web was, you know, if you think way back and you think to like 96, 99 time frame, you had this thing called the web, or you had the beginnings of this thing called the web, and before that you had this thing called the internet. What did you do on it? And it wasn't a lot, and it took something like a company like Netscape to give you a browser which was just amazing. And I can still remember, you know, calling my friends when I, first used Netscape. Similar, you know, I'd say. So that's kind of the seismic changes that you have to look for, and you have to look for these major, massive opportunities where there's just a big hole in the market. I think, you know, if you fast forward to where we are today, the opportunity that's coming is actually again a browser-like opportunity. I think that there's a lot of confusion. So it's great that you have this little protected little service called, you know, iTunes that, you know, people are using, you know, the App Store, but that's not going to sate the mobile industry. Many, you know, very respectable other players in the ecosystem are going to make announcements about their platforms. They're going to try to convince other developers to go to those platforms. If half of those platforms are successful, you've got a massive explosion. Even if 25% of those platforms are successful, you've got a massive explosion of apps. You've got a lot of confusion in the marketplace. How does an end user make sense of that? I think that is a truly seismic opportunity that I'm, you know, excited about. So I think, you know, in its very simplest form, app discovery, application discovery is really interesting. And then the evolution of that. So right now, in our current mindset, we're only talking about a download model. So this is the area where I'm really going to look for industry leaders to try to understand, when do I believe that we're going to get to the point of real-time browsing? Or when are we going to get to truly mobile browsing? Once you get to truly mobile browsing, that's going to impact your consumption. That's going to impact the types of applications that you need to make available for people. It's clear the demand is there. It's clear just from what Apple's done, but it's, you know, really, in its current form, as great as it is, there's a lot more that can be done. There's a lot of limitations, tremendous amount of limitations in the Apple system. There's a lot of frustration on behalf of developers. End users aren't really being given the full benefits of being truly mobile, moving in this real world, that they're going to increasingly, you know, demand more and more, just as bandwidth consumption and the tolerances for slowness. If you remember how we were with the internet, our tolerance for slow download time was, you know, we would sit there for minutes. Now, if it doesn't happen right away, you click until the point where your computer is frozen. I think that kind of scaling requirement of end users is definitely something that's coming in apps. And the way I think that, you know, Apple is handling it right now is not sustainable. So real-time browsing is something I'm really interested in. App discovery in the context of downloads today, but app discovery in the context of, you know, real-time browsing is actually something that is an area that I'm, you know, fascinated by. So the limitations of the App Store today are it's a download model.
Right.
Downloads are great. They're great for games. But you're really offline. You're not getting the benefit of the network, right? So, as I think this year, I know that, you know, we're altruistic, or we take a non-participatory view of the ecosystem. So I'm friends with carriers. I'm friends with service providers that are not carrier based, OEMs, all of them. We don't get it. We're not particularly religious about it, but it's clear if with the effort that everybody is bringing to bring solutions to market, that there's going to be greater and greater choice given to end users that's going to change their requirements, that they're going to require more and more and more from the network, whether it's a carrier network or whether it's this thing called the internet. But what we know is that what they're going to be served is going to increasingly resemble the internet. So just like your tolerances and your requirements have changed, end users' requirements and tolerances are going to change, and they're going to go get greater and greater and greater. I don't think that download model can keep up with that, fundamentally. You can put a cool little app that's going to give you a cool little game when you're disconnected, but really what you're probably going to require is you're going to require augmented reality. You're going to become used to getting that information immediately to your handheld or to your fingertips or to your eyeballs as you move in the real world. And that's the real power of the internet. I mean, I think that mobile, there was always convergence, but mobile has really won, right? Data beat voice, mobile beats immobility, and being bound to a desktop. That day is over. Just to back up and just be more realistic, or based in where we are today. The power of the network today is this thing called your social web, your social graph. What are people using that for? Well, there's a lot of chat and there's sort of just extraneous conversation that happens, but there's a lot of value that comes from being plugged into your social graph, and that's really why people are valuing Facebook, how they value Facebook. But what is that value? It's knowing what people you care about are thinking and doing as you're moving. So today that's just kind of largely desktop based, although their traffic is skewing heavily towards mobile. But as your graph is mobile and as you are mobile, you're going to want inputs from filters that you care about, humans that you care about, as you need it immediately. That's tremendous. So whether it's movies, or whether it's restaurants, or whatever decisions humans have to make, being able to bring the power of people that you care about, filters that you care about, or bring in experts that you really care, that maybe you don't know, that are 1 degree removed. That is where the internet's going, but that's also the internet is increasingly mobile, right? Where is that relevant? It's when you're moving in space. It's not when you're sitting at your desktop. Yeah, you might be able to buy something on an online marketplace, but it's much more relevant to you when you're moving in some strange city, right? When you're alone and you're disconnected, you can go to the network, your friend, the network, and get what you need at that point in time to make a better decision. That's the real power of mobile. As I said, I look for problems. I believe that that's the best place for startups to actually invest their most precious resource, which is their time. And look for big problems that are going to have to be solved. One of the biggest risks for any entrepreneur is market timing. The great entrepreneurs have a great sense, almost a sixth sense, for the timing of the market. So it's really the pressure points as you see sort of industry moving towards a point. Seeing that friction to a point is actually what you want. Do you believe you can solve that friction in a time frame where you're going to have the resources to actually be able to deliver something to market before a large company can do it? And that's always the trade-off.
Mobile Industry Review, Mobile Developer TV.